wanted to make a quick one here. I was having a conversation with someone who's developing an app, and he asked me about KPIs. Like, what are my KPIs? What should they be going forwards? And I thought about this for a little bit, and I think it's worth diving into because so many people, I think, put artificial importance on things like KPIs, things like numbers, statistics that they should be tracking. But I think it just really depends on what you want to grow and what your focus is for the next phase of your business. So, for example, let's say take this person who has 5,000 users and wants to get more users. The real question is, like, is that actually what you want? Do you want to get more users, or are you worried about your bottom line? Are you worried about margins? Do you want to convert your users better into paid users, right? The way that you tackle KPIs, the way that you actually pick something is you have to figure out what you actually want. So for example, if your app is a freemium app and you have 10,000 users and a handful of them have converted to a paid model, but you're worried about your business model and you're worried about cash flow, then the real problem is, like, how do I get more of my user base to convert, or how do I make each user worth more? That's it, right? That's it on the front end. And then if you do have a substantial amount of users that are converting, but the issue is that they're not sticking around, then the issue is, like, what are the issues? Why aren't people sticking around? How can I make my app more sticky? How can I get more people to stick around with the paid version? And the answer is, I mean, it's different depending on what your goals are and what your problem is. So I think the real steps are, number one, just figure out, like, what the thing is that you're actually trying to do, right? Like, what is the goal that you want to get to? And then just do the maths backwards. The maths backwards quite simply means, what are the conversion rates that you have right now, right? So, like, if it's number of users, how are you getting your users? What's the click-through rate on your ads? What percentage of people convert to a user? Is there anything you can do to make that a little bit better? Or can you spend more on your ads so that you can put your ads in front of more people and get more people on board? If the limiting factor there is, actually, I don't have enough money to spend on ads, like, I'm already spending as much as I can on ads, then you need to look at, right, like, how am I converting my users to paid users? Is my payment model substantial enough? Like, how can I make each person worth more to me? I think if you go through that exercise, it oftentimes becomes really, really self-evident what the limiting factor is to the growth that you want. And if you're not sure what the growth that you want is, then that's the first thing that you need to figure out. There's a reason so many tech startups get VC funding. It's because oftentimes you need to burn cash in the beginning to get users on board so that you can get traction and enough of a user base to test your thing and then monetize it profitably. But, like, if profitability is your goal, like, that's what you want to do right off the bat, then starting a SaaS company probably isn't the best way to do it, unless you're going with, like, an enterprise, service / SaaS hybrid. So I think number one, people sometimes need to just get really clear on what the goal actually is, or just, like, really honest with themselves, right? Like, talking about users, talking about, stickiness, or, like, number of free users you're getting from your, like, post on Reddit. It's good, but it's ultimately an ego metric, right? Like, if the problem is cash flow, then just be willing to say that, like, admit that the problem is cash flow, and then you can actually start to look at fixing it. Second thing is, make sure you measure the things that you actually care about, right? So going back to cash flow again, because in this instance, it turned out that the problem actually was cash flow. If the problem is that you don't have enough paid users, then you need to be able to track, okay, like, what is my churn rate? What is my conversion rate from, a freemium user to paid user? At what point does that happen? What are the features that the free user needs to experience in order to switch to paid? How am I currently enticing people to switch to a paid model, right? Like, is the pricing model okay? What do people think about my service? These are all things that you need to measure in order to actually start improving them, right? And you can only start to diagnose when you have a database of things that you can look at. If you don't know what your churn is, then you don't know if churn is the problem or not. If you don't know what your conversion rates on marketing emails are, then you can't fix it. You can't optimize things that you don't measure. And number three is there's really no silver bullet. So if, for example, your customers aren't sticking, it could be a myriad of different things, but more commonly, it's a combination of things, right? So it's not that, there's one thing, there's one feature or one step that you're not taking that's leading to people churning out of the business. It's that there are 20 different potential things that people might churn, and each person has like a 5% chance of falling into one of those buckets. And your job is to fix each of those buckets and add 5%, add 5%, add 5% until you cover those 20 reasons. And then, the next bottleneck in your business will probably reveal itself. Maybe it's like development time, maybe it's the acquisition engine, maybe it's still the payment, and you just need to, look at how you structure your offer so that you can make each customer more valuable, right? But you can only start doing that once you fix the problems that are in front of you. So stop looking for silver bullets. They very, very rarely exist. It's that you have to fix all the things that are presented to you, and then each of them add like a tiny little bit, and then eventually you look back and people are staying for longer in your business. Anyways, that was a really quick one. I just thought I'd make that because I was thinking about it for a little while.